Okay, Ron, so we've got this big hydraulic railroad cell, and we'll flip it up here in a bit so that this thing was damaged, and we'll flip it up here in a bit so everybody can take a look at it. But basically, this red plate is the base plate, okay?
Yes.
And you have the 4 cap bolts in there that hold the cell to the base plate, and then the base plate would have the anchor bolts, or the bolts that bolt it down to the plate that's cast into the concrete.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's what the bottom of it would look like. So if you were to have to replace one of these cells, you would unbolt the 4 bolts that hold it into the concrete.
Correct.
Flip this thing up, take out the 4
Cap bolts. If you needed to just replace the cell, and you could get the cell. When we used to get these rebuilt, I'd have everything just like this. I'd have ordered this plate specifically. There's a couple different types of plates that they make that go on this cell.
Now let's take a look inside this cell and explain kind of the damage that happened.
It's about 275 pounds. So when we went and troubleshot this, we jacked it up, and this actual column was like that. It's used on a 400,000 pound, basically a charging scale that they put material on, crest drive on it, kind of like a uke.
And so normally that column would be straight up and down, okay? Then you would have the upper receiver sitting on top of it, and then you would have the big boot the big rubber boot covers
this and straps around here.
Okay. So take and pull that column out, Ron. I want to show everybody the quote-unquote lower receiver that is down in there. Now that thing ain't coming out because this whole cylinder is all deformed, and it's got that receiver locked down in there. What'd you call this plate right here?
This is a stay plate. It's basically like a flexure on if you're going to put flexures on a compression cell, like on a truck scale. Same thing. It just keeps this all straight up and down because the diaphragm is right underneath this plate that the receiver sets on.
And normally that stay plate is TIG welded to the...
Yep. It's welded around here and around here. I have seen these where they've been broke loose and it's still way okay, but the problem is generally when they break loose, it tears a hole in the boot, and then water will run down in between the cylinder here and the gap that's around the inside here, and that ends up being in this gauge port. So then you get water in the gauge port and dirt and everything, and then when it freezes, of course, doesn't work so good.
Okay. All right, so that's a big railroad cell, guys, that normally probably not going to get to see too many of them, but it's the same concept for the smaller load cells that are inside the hydraulic truck scales. It's just a smaller version of it. Okay. Thanks, Ron.
Yep.